Where's that go? Oh, there you
go. That good? Here you go.
Is it recording?
Yeah, it is.
Sounds good. All right, so as you guys know, I took the PMAR class. It's about an hour and a half long on the new forms. By new forms, I mean the changes to the old forms. And there are some pretty significant changes and then other just kind of terminology changes. And this is the samples of the new forms that are coming out officially tomorrow. So this is the residential sale agreement. Not a ton of changes in the first couple of pages, but going down, there's under buyer representation regarding financing, it now says buyers shall request the ordering of the lender's appraisal no later than expiration of the inspection period. That's just a minor change, but it is fairly significant, just a little bit more strict on you have to get that requested by the end of the inspection period. Yeah, so it used to say shall make a good faith effort to secure, and that's just a little bit more specific. Scrolling through here, the changes are in yellow, highlighted in yellow, so you'll see those clearly. The FERPTA tax withholding requirement, so they decided to get a little bit more specific on this as well. And they also want to help protect both the buyer and the buyer's agent. Essentially, this is an important thing that a lot of people don't think about, and most title companies in the Portland metro area will handle the FERPTA requirements and just the documents that need to be signed on their own. And the title companies that I work with do, so, but if they don't, then it's going to be important to focus a little bit more on this. But yeah, they're just trying to make it more clear for both the buyer, the buyer's agent, and basically all parties whose responsibility it is to get the document signed. And this is whether the person is a U.S. citizen or not. So there's documents that should be signed, need to be signed. All right, miscellaneous items. Small change in the smoke and carbon monoxide detector section. It's basically just saying that it's installed. Previously, it was just saying that they need to be present in the place as required by law, and it didn't say installed, which basically meant people could lean it up against a wall or put it on the kitchen counter or something like that. And if someone were to do that, in theory, they could both, and it passed the appraisal and passed everything. In theory, the buyer could go after the buyer's agent and a variety of people, the appraiser, inspector, if it was present like that, and their whole family died or something like that. So that's going to be an important one. Just make sure they're properly installed and fixed to the walls.
Well, and per ORS 479 is the updated code, I believe, for which smoke detectors are required in each of the bedrooms. Whereas previously you could locate one outside the hall amongst all 3 bedrooms. Mm-hmm. And so what you'll find is these old houses may already have a smoke alarm in them, but it's not installed according to this updated code.
Gotcha.
So that just keep that in mind when you're doing listings, that you might as well have the seller just put in the required amount of carbon monoxide detectors. And
yeah,
so it's, I believe it's 1 per bedroom, and then if it has gas, 1 carbon monoxide detector on each level of the house.
Yeah. So
if it's 3 stories, you need 3 carbon monoxide detectors.
And does it specify yet that it has to be 5 feet or under?
Yes.
All right.
I believe it does.
Yeah. So basically, just look to the code and then send that directly to your sellers and buyers. But those are going to be accessible. Smart home features. That's just a new section altogether. It's pretty. It makes sense. I mean, a lot of homes now have smart home features, whether it's a Ring doorbell or a Nest thermostat or something like that. It's basically saying that the sellers have a duty to disclose or provide the password to the buyers. And as a listing agent, you just need to make sure that, hey, tell your clients, hey, guess what? You got to give your passwords over, so make sure you change them from one that's personal to a more generic one prior to handing over the keys. And that's just going to be something they have to send over.
So are those considered like fixtures now?
So there's a lot of gray area. So they're also saying make sure that you put it in the fixtures and personal property section what is included in the sale. So sometimes the rings are hardwired in, and pretty much unilaterally that's going to be considered a fixture. But there are also the battery operated ones that are not hardwired in. So those will not be. But in general, they are going to be considered a fixture, and they will be included with the sale unless otherwise specified.
I mean, typically when someone replaces a fixture, they usually have the old one too. So if they really want the rings, they'll just swap it out.
Yeah.
So you want to be clear that that particular item is coming along with the sale.
Exactly.
And those things are like $300 a piece, so it's not like an insignificant amount of money if there's 3 of them on the property.
For sure.
So.
And I mean, does that go for like ring cameras inside too and stuff like that? You know?
Yeah. I mean, if they're fixed, again, just specify it. If you know that your clients, if you're representing the seller and they really want to keep everything, put that in the RMLS notes if it's still there, and if it's not still there, then that's great. If they took it out prior, a lot of people want to have some sort of surveillance of the property, or maybe they want their Simply Safe system still in there or something like that. But yeah, it's just a new one. Let's see. Earnest money. This is again kind of just semantics to a certain extent, but it's basically saying that the seller may terminate instead of kind of just assuming that it's terminated if the buyer does not submit their earnest money.
So is this is allowing the seller to not terminate the agreement?
Yeah, exactly. But whatever it is, just has to be in writing. Tenant is currently in possession of the property. So this is kind of important as well. So they added this, if applicable, tenant relocation costs, which we're all familiar with at this point. And it's kind of self-explanatory, but do you guys have any questions on that? Cool. Definitions and instructions, basically just saying that the buyer and seller means both singular and plural. Pretty self-explanatory. It could be John and Mary are the buyer, and it's just a buyer, not buyers, and that's how it's defined for the purpose of the contracts. So this is just not that important. It's actually in a different section where this is the case, but it's basically just saying that agents and firms are also going to be going to mediation and arbitration if necessary. And it's apparently, so they actually specifically said, this edition cross-references the sections 36 to 39, dispute resolution of the sale agreement, which involves agents and their companies, to clarify that while they are not parties to the transaction, they are subject to the mandatory mediation and arbitration provisions. So, explanatory as well. Yeah, so this section, number 9, signed and accepted. So this is just based on what constitutes delivery and electronic transmission. And when the agreement is signed and accepted, as defined here, and the agreement becomes legally binding on buyer and seller. And then they also said that with termination, it can be a little bit different. You do need to get the signature of the other party if you're terminating. Whereas if you are, I don't know, it's pretty self-explanatory when you read it. And apparently this is not a new addition. It's actually was in there previously, and then they put it back in. yeah, nothing else on that. And I think that's all I'm going to go over right now. There are a variety of other changes to different things, but we didn't even finish the whole thing in an hour and a half. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will I forwarded everything else over, but I will also send the notes from the lawyer that reviewed this, and that'll be helpful as well. But 66 pages of that and 25 pages of this, so I'm not going to go over it all.
Cool. Was there any other highlights from any of the other stuff? Or?
Not really. Nothing that was really super important from my opinion. I think so there was one thing actually. I don't really deal with manufactured homes. There are changes to the backup offer addendum, but again, nothing too crazy. They changed the levy of additional property taxes in a couple of the addendums. Changes to buyer's repair addendum, but again, it's all pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They did change the townhome and planned community / homeowners association addendum. Now it's called the Homeowners Association Townhome and Planned Community Addendum. The main reason they're doing that is because they want to make sure that even the people in Mountain Park and any area with an HOA has this addendum included, because a lot of people have just been foregoing it. So that
sounds good.
What I want to talk about. But, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for presenting.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, I just need to see.
Stop recording.
Where is that?